Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Show About Science. This is your host, Nate. And on today's episode, we are going to be here with the Kings of Pain, Adam Thorn and Caveman Rob Alleva, who are going to be showing us the science behind their show, Kings of Pain. Prepare to be stung by an amazing episode. Hello, welcome to the Show About Science.
Hello, thanks for having us.
Of course, I'm really excited to have you on the show. So, could you tell our listeners a little bit about yourselves?
My name is Robert. I go by Caveman on the show because that is my social media handle. And I'm a professional animal handler. And for the last few years with Adam, I have been a human guinea pig.
And I'm Adam. I'm also a human guinea pig, but I'm a wildlife biologist as well. And yeah, I've been working with animals my entire life and also getting bitten and stung by them.
So I've got to ask, I'm just really curious, how did you two meet?
Well, I got flown to Los Angeles to basically discuss a show. I didn't really have any idea about it, but when I got to LA, Caveman was there and we had a chat and we talked to the producers and they told us about the pain index and said, how do you feel about creating a pain index that kind of expands on Justin Schmidt's? And Caveman has been getting himself bitten and stung by animals. He was doing it in the past on YouTube and things like that for years and years and years. But my bites and stings just came accidentally from working with animals. And obviously Rob took a lot of accidental bites and stings as well. So we're kind of like the perfect match because we both had some weird curiosity about bites and stings and what they feel like. I mean, I look at an animal and I always think, what does that feel like if it bites or stings? So we were kind of like a match made in heaven because we both had that kind of weird interest in bites and stings. So it was a great opportunity for both of us and we got along immediately. We were basically like best mates.
Yep, can't relate to that morbid curiosity, but I mean, it's for science.
Yeah, for science.
And so that's how you two became the Kings of Pain.
Well, yeah, we're the guys that get bitten and stung by stuff and then rated on a pain index.
In 1983, entomologist Dr. Justin Schmidt began ranking stinging insects on a scale from 1 to 4. He put himself in harm's way for science. Now, Adam Thorn and Caveman Rob Alleva are taking Schmidt's index further.
It's ready to go. Do you want to get bit?
Adding venomous bites.
Let go!
And more deadly creatures.
It's coming! A hippo just hit the boat!
Ranking them on a 30-point scale with new categories.
That is the worst I've ever had.
Intensity. Duration.
It's getting worse.
And damage.
Okay, so can you tell us about Dr. Schmidt and his pain index?
Dr. Schmidt was an entomologist, and in the course of his work studying insects around the world, he was stung by, I think, around 78 different species of Hymenoptera. So that's ants, wasps, bees, all the things you typically think about when you think of a stinging insect. And he was like, you know what? I'm getting stung by all these things. Some really hurt. Some don't hurt that bad. Why don't I create a pain index? And so he did based on how intense the pain was. So for reference, a honeybee would be about a 2, sort of a middle of the road. Most of us have been stung by a honeybee. It hurts, but it's not the end of the world. Whereas something like a sweat bee, which you barely feel, would be, I think, a 0.5 point or a 1. And then there's things at the top of the list, like the tarantula hawk wasp, that is a 4. It's a perfect 4 out of 4 and is really intense pain.
And so you've been, as you said, expanding that pain index. And so you've been adding new animals to the list and revisiting some of the ones that Dr. Schmidt had exposed himself to. So could you tell us a little bit about the kinds of animals you've put on your pain index? Like some highlights?
Yeah, well, we decided, why stop at bees, wasps, and ants? Let's expand it to, vertebrates, animals with backbones, and all sorts of different animals, and also expand the index itself. So Justin Schmidt only rated intensity. We put intensity, duration, and damage, and rate each category out of 10 for a total of 30. And some of the highlights, oh, wow. There's a lot of them. Definitely the one that stands out is the 16-foot reticulated python. But at the end of the day, everyone would expect that to hurt. It's a large snake with a lot of long teeth. Yeah. But we got a lot of surprises, especially in season 2. The horrid king assassin bug was absolutely mind-blowing. Yeah. Let's just put it that way. It made everything almost seem pleasant after that thing bit us.
I hope you don't mean mind-blowing in a literal sense of the word, but so you did a lot of crazy things in season 1. So, you got bitten by things like, the one that really stood out to me was the rove beetle, which it gave you, permanent scarring and, melted your flesh off. So after getting bitten by all these things, what on earth made you decide to do a season 2?
Well, I think Adam and I are gluttons for punishment. Yeah. But despite all the pain and what our bodies went through, we had a great time together, working together in season 1. We got to travel to cool places in the world. We got to see so many cool animals that when they said they wanted to do a season 2 at history, we didn't really need to think a second thought about doing it because we had such a good time. We learned so much. But what we're doing differently this time, instead of traveling, we have one location where we're filming everything. And if you remember Dr. Ben, who is the curly-haired medic from season 1, yes. You're going to see a lot more of him this season. And he has a pain lab. So we go visit him in his pain lab, and he gives us all the information about the venom of the animals Adam and I have chosen. So he kind of lets us know how dangerous these things are. But because we're all in one location, all his medical gear's there, we know the route to the hospital, we're able to do more dangerous animals. And one that we wanted to do season 1, and the doctor said no, history said no, it was too dangerous to do in the middle of the jungle, was an electric eel. Adam and I really wanted to do one. Because we are closer to a hospital this time, and we had the pain lab, they let us. So we got to get shocked by a 4-foot-long electric eel.
Okay, well, I'm going to have to watch that episode, but I've got to say, my definition of having a good time with a friend is definitely not getting shocked by electric eels together.
Well, it is it's a very toxic friendship we've got together. Every time we see each other, we are in pain. So every time I see Caveman, I just associate him with pain. Okay, what are we going to be injured by this time?
I like hanging out with you, but every time we do, it's never a pleasant experience.
Yo. We're about to step into a world of pain.
So, of all of your experiences, what do you think really, shocked you the most, literally and figuratively? I want to hear both.
Yeah, well, literally, definitely the electric eel. That thing, was unbelievable. It was one of the most powerfulest things we've ever experienced, and not in a pain way, just more of sheer power that this thing can put out. It was amazing. But some of the things that really stood out were some of the smaller animals, and you're thinking to yourself, how and why is this thing so painful? But there is a reason for it. It is small, and it needs a larger predator to get away from it very quickly. So it needs to pack a punch. Yeah. And what we've learned is smaller doesn't necessarily mean less painful. Like, size really doesn't matter when it comes to a lot of these animals.
I cannot relate to any of this in any sort of way. I haven't even been stung by a bee before, and I'm scared of those things. So I couldn't even imagine getting stung or bitten or whatever by any of these animals, and just watching them, it's so...
Well, we get stung and bitten, so you don't have to.
Yes, thank you. I do not want to. And so... because you've gotten stung by so many dangerous animals, like bitten and stung and battered in a bunch of different ways, does that make the next stings worse in any way?
I'm so glad you asked that. And you are the first person in any interview ever that, instead of asking if we were getting immune, actually knew the dangers. So that's really cool that you knew that. Yes, we are exposed to so many venoms and proteins that our body has a very high chance of developing allergies to those. Adam and I have a mutual friend who was allergic to cobras and then was bitten by what you and I would consider basically a harmless snake with just small amounts of venom in South America. And he was bitten by that and almost died. So the reason he was allergic to cobras was because I think he'd been bitten before. And also he kept spinning cobras as pets, and that gets in the air and he breathes it in. So that could happen to us anytime. But thank God, so far, we don't seem to have any sensitivities to any of the animals that we've been bitten and stung by so far.
Yeah, we've been lucky.
And I hate to give any spoilers for season 2, but I'm talking to them right now, so I don't really think that they died. Just a hunch.
We wanted to a couple times, so we thought we were.
Yeah, we definitely. Filming season 2, waking up every morning was a blessing, because we really got to that point where we were like, man, this is getting bad. Some of these animals have been responsible for deaths in human beings, and that mixed with the worry that maybe we are allergic to these venoms, we just don't know until you get bitten or stung. It was pretty daunting. You wake up every morning going, today might be the day.
Yeah.
Yep. And for any listener wondering, we're not just running out in the woods and doing this by ourselves. We always have Dr. Ben Abo, who is a venom specialist. He works in emergency departments. He knows what he's doing. There's a lot of research that goes into these. So this isn't anything that anyone listening should go out and try unless you have a whole medical team for yourself.
And normally I'd ask if you had any advice for kids who wanted to be like you, but...
Don't be like us. You don't want to be like us.
Yeah. Well, I hope that people watching realize how cool these animals are, how an animal that may be the size of a spider or a bug, living in a world where everything is a giant compared to it, can still survive. They're super cool, and we really hope people realize that, yes, they can hurt you, but there's a reason for it, and they just want to go about their lives.
And if you really do want to be like them, go watch season 1 and then season 2 when it comes out, and you'll be rethinking that.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, so watch the season 2 premiere of Kings of Pain on the History Channel. And yeah, thank you for being on the show.
No worries. Thank you.
Oh.
There you have it, folks. The show about science is complete. Big thank you to Adam, Rob, and everyone at the History Channel for making this episode possible. Music on today's episode came from Epidemic Sound, and our theme song was written and composed by Jeff, Dan, and Teresa Brooks. All right, Dad, you can shut the recording off.